We'll do a review in Likutei Sichas in Chelek Yutes. This is the second sicha for the parsha of Kisavai. This is basically both a Rashi sicha. The Rebbe explains the Rashi sichas in the end of the Ch'toichacha, the rebuke that we find in the parshas Kisavai. So the Rebbe explains the Pshuta Shel Mikra, but the Rebbe also explains how in the inner matter of things, actually the brachas are the klolos, the curses are actually brachas, and to see that actually the greatest bracha, what seems to be the greatest klola, is actually the greatest bracha. But first, in this simple meaning, the Rebbe will explain how every detail in this pasuk, which some of it seems to be by derech hagav, but the Rebbe shows it and explains in the Rashi that every detail is actually a very specific teichocha, a very specific rebuke. Let's learn inside. Ois Aleph. Shengeret fil mol, we already spoken many times. So first the Rebbe is going to say that Rashi also has more than just the simple meaning of the pasuk. Aschot Rashi. That although Rashi, to begin with, what is the main, is to explain the literal meaning of the verses. His content, the commentary of Rashi, also contains in it the wine of Torah. The wine of Torah means, what's the wine of Torah? Pnimius, the inner part of Torah, Verozin Derais, and the secrets of the Torah. Der bewusster Wort von alten Rebbe, as the known expression of the Alter Rebbe. Now, this is specifically was the Voch, and this week, this the Parsha of Kumi Oiri. In the Haftorah of Kisavai, we read from the Haftorah Kumi Oiri, let my shine rise, my light, and that represents as well the Alter Rebbe, the Shnei Oir, and the Baal Shem Tov. This week is Oich from the Kumeri, is Chai Elul, is the 18th day of Elul. Is Zayin Yom Haledes, that's the birthday of the Alter Rebbe. The Yedua, and it's known the Wort from Baal Shem Tov Bezeh, known the expression that the Baal Shem Tov used with regards to the birth of the Alter Rebbe, Benegeya. He led us from Alten Rebbe, but Yom Hanal, on the above day, but Zayin Yom Haledes is Yom Chayelu. His birthday is on Chayelu. Nazoi is as Oich Benegeya, the Pirush Rashi v'Parshaseinu the Divrei Techocha. So as it relates to the Rashi's commentary in the words of rebuke, that we find over there the Yenu Shel Torah, and we can zog, and we can say, as es is noch mer benegeya pirush Rashi b'Techocha, that it's even more as it reconnects to the Rashi's commentary when it comes to the Techocha. Leid dem biur von alten Rebben Likutei Torah, according to the explanation of the Alter Rebbe Likutei Torah, as far as it relates to the words of rebuke themselves. So the Rebbe says, although on a revealed level the content is opposite of blessing, the truth is that they're only blessings. That's what the Alter Rebbe says, that there is hidden in the Teichacha itself the blessings. They're only blessings. Torah hot in sich sosim vegalia. Torah has the closed, the hidden, and vegalia, and the revealed, the open. And there's sosim upnimius v'neshama. And what is the hidden, the closed, the inner? What is the soul from the klolos of these curses? Is an inyan for brachas nailos b'yoser. That's a matter of some of the greatest elevated blessings. Al derech, wie mir gefindt in Gemara, Gemara relates in Meid Cotton, of Testament Beis, the Gemara relates that he came back to his father. He says that they cursed me, and the Gemara explains over there. It was Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. He explained to him Hanech Kulu Birchosaninu, the thing that he assumed over there that they were cursing him. After he explained to him, he showed him that these were really all brachas. So the appearance of the Toichache in the Pashas Kisave is that it is klolos, but the truth of the matter is these are really brachas. Hani kulu brachas. That's the pnimis. So bedugma lazeh. So since this is as far as the Toichache in general is concerned, so similar to this is as benegeya the Pirush Rashi of the Toichache. It's as far as the Rashi's commentary of the Toichache. Der Pshat from the Rashi kommt a rausbringen dem Geudel haloi teuf, the Vipshute shel Mikra. In the simple Rashi, it's coming to teach us how big, how grave the no good. That's the simple passage. The Teichacha talks about how things are bad. So that's according to the literal, the Pshat. Kumen, the selbe Werte von Rashi, always bring the pnimius. So the same words of Rashi also bring out the inner Umaysu had Gosha, and they add emphasis in the brachis nailus from the Teichacha, in the great elevated blessing of the Teichacha. And here the Rebbe is going to explain the Teichacha, the last verse, towards the end of the Teichacha. It says that Hashem will bring you back to Egypt, and you'll be sold over there to your enemy, and nobody will buy you. So there's a problem over here. Rashi explains over here, because it almost seems this is not such a terrible thing to come back to Mitzrayim and nobody wants to buy you. And therefore Rashi explains what it means, that it means captivity, and it means that nobody's going to buy because they're going to kill them first. But the Rebbe is going to explain that each of the parts of the pasuk and the details, each one adds to the klolos in the simple meaning of the pasuk, and they each add to the brachas the pnimis inyan. Base. By the end of the rebuke, the pasuk states, "Shivcha Hashem Mitzrayim." God will bring you back to Egypt, in boats. On the way that I have told you, you shall no longer see it. You'll no longer see Egypt. So you're going to go back. And you will sell yourself over there to your enemies. You try to sell yourselves for servants, for male servants, for maid servants, for shvachas, and nobody will buy you. That's what the pasuk says there. So bepashtus, the simple meaning is moving. It's understood as Yibal. Their pasuk stayed by Msoivisim from their Teichacha. Since this pasuk is written by the end and the completion of the Teichacha, so what he's coming to express here, something which is totally opposite of good, meaning very bad, because this is the end, this is the rebuke. We're saying more and more, this is the finally, so we're saying something very difficult. So is it moving? So when you read it, the verse without Rashi's pshat, it's not understood. What is the Gevaldi Kippuranis from them? What is this such a great big punishment from them was that the Jews will go back to Egypt. Nobody will want to buy them as servants and maidservants. So why is that such a terrible thing? It doesn't seem like that is such a really, nobody's going to want to buy them. So therefore Rashi explains. So when we read Rashi, is this Rashi Mavayah? Rashi explains what we're talking about over here. When it says "Ba'niyos," means "bisvinois bishvi," means boat. It means in captivity. It's not just you're going to go back with boats to Egypt, but you're going to be going back as captives. That means that you will reach Egypt as captives. Then Rashi says of Oiv ve'en koina, nobody will buy. Zokt Rashi ki yigzuru alecha hereg v'kiloyim, because they will decree upon you to be killed and destroyed. So basically, there's not going to be no buyers because they're not going to let you live. So it's also part of the curse. So there's basically, as you learn, it seems there's two issues here. One is that you're going to be captives. That's a klala. And the second thing is that they're actually going to condemn you to death, and they're not even going to be able to be sold as slaves and maidservants. And the rest of the parts of the pasuk are just coincidental. But the Rebbe says no. Learning the Bashkofer is Shaina, Kumtois, if we learn it at first glance. As in the pasuk is Anadot Pur Oniyos Biker, that in this verse there is mainly two punishments. Aleph, number one, Eden vel kumen kemitzrayim b'shivya. That first of all, the Yidden will come to Egypt in captivity. And Beis, and number two, Yigzuru Alecha Hereg V'Kiloyin, they will decree upon you to be killed and destroyed. Und die übrige Wörter im Pasuk, and the other words in this verse, Ba'aniyos, that you're going to come by boat. B'derech asher amarti lecha lo yisosef et liroisa, on the way that I've told you that you're not going to see it again. And and that you'll be sold. These are all incidental. The main thing is that nobody's going to buy. They are just mere details of the two punishments of above, of being in captivity and being condemned to death. That's what it looks like. But the Rebbe says we can, however, say, as Rashi Rashi through his specific language that he uses, and also his commentary, Gitzu Verstehen, he gives us an understanding. The Yeder Prat in Posik is Meisiv, how every detail in the verse adds Azach Heipech HaTov La'atzmei. It independently, each of these words add a something not good by himself. Kittel Kamon, as the Rebbe will explain. Then in the wine of Torah, the Yeder Vort, on Inyan, every word and every matter, kommt meisiv sein, in Goydel Ha'ilu v'Habrocha was v'zayin Ba'iden. That comes to add, increase the great elevation, the blessing that's going to be by the Jews. Okay, so this is what the Rebbe is suggesting, and the Rebbe is going to first introduce the explanation by questioning why is it important that the pasuk says, "I'll bring you back in the place that I've told you you're not going to see it." What does it mean to say? Bet man das verstehen, Gimel. Bet man das verstehen, behagdim levayer will first explain was der pasuk is madgish. The pasuk emphasizes v'shivcha goymer, but derech asher amart lecha lo yisosef ein l'roisa, on the road that I have told you, you will not see it again. What difference does it make? Why is this important in this rebuke? Why is it different does it make if Hashem told you not to go back there and you are going back? And what does this have to do with rebuke? Everyone wants to say this is an extra part in the rebuke, because otherwise it doesn't understand why the pasuk mentions that. We don't find an answer, Rashi in his commentary, why the pasuk says here, on the way that I told you don't return back. So some Mefarshim say that explains why the pasuk says B'niyah specifically with boats, because they couldn't go back on the regular way. But the Rebbe says in Pshat, it's not easy to explain like that. It doesn't really fit. Mefarshim Zogun, the Mefarshim explain, as their meat is the Pasuk Masbir, that the Pasuk says that you can't return on the way I told you not to go back. The Pasuk explains, Kavos, der Veshivcha is Davke Boniyos. Why does it bring you back on boats? The Baldas, the Rebishter had gesagt, since Hashem has said, so that you know, not going to see it again, in dem derech, on the route, in Sheftim, you shall not return in this way. So in other words, there is a specific emphasis not to go back on that way. So how could there be a rebuke to tell us that the Yidden are going back to the Egypt? So that's why. So it can't be that the Yidden will come to Egypt in this road, through the dry land. The river is the Pasik Madgish. That's why the Pasik emphasized that Hashem will bring you back by boat. So that's why there's explanation. But why do we have to tell you by boat, and we have to caution all this? A part of the Teichacha, don't say bring you back by boat. Don't say that we don't have to figure out why Hashem is bringing them back when He said not to bring them back. Why is that important? And the Rebbe still is heading towards the explanation that each one of these by boat and by Leisif and Lebederech Hazeh is actually part of the review. And therefore, the Rebbe says it's difficult, however, to interpret this in the literal meaning of the verse, which is the style, the path that Rashi explains when he's commentary on the Torah. While in their Teichacha, what difference does it make in this review to caution you and to answer as the Vashiv Hashem Mitzrayim is need so that when Hashem says He'll bring you back to Egypt, does not contradict when Hashem says, well, you're not going to see it again. So why does the Teichacha have to tell us that? The Torah did not have to write, shouldn't have said on the way that I told you not to go back there. That seems to also not have any connection to the Teichacha. And then it would not be necessary to answer this by saying that it's going to be by boat. Don't say that Abisha said not to go back there, and then you don't have to say they're going back by boat. How is this connected to the Teichacha? The Rebbe takes another side possible answer from the Lekatov, which the Rebbe also rejects. He says that this just shows us that even though Hashem promised that not going to take you back to Egypt, but Averis can bring you that still go back. This is not of a rebuke to tell you how much Averis can cause, but that also doesn't sit well. Let's look inside Dalet. We could have said, like it says in the Medrash Lekatov, as der Posik will der mit Madgish sein, the verse wishes to emphasize by bringing down to was the Averes are known to the Firun, to see how far sins are able to lead you to. Although Hashem has promised, so that you're not going to see it again, and yet and yet the sins can cause that Hashem should nullify this promise. So that's a rebuke. This is also not very smooth in the style of simple meaning of the pasuk. Because in order to know this idea as a chet, that a sin, especially grave sins, can can cause the nullification of the promise from Hashem. We don't have to come on to the very great curses, especially by the end of the Parshas Kisavai, which is the end of the Klolos, from the Teichacha, the end of the review. We see by Yaakov said that he was afraid. He says, Atzleni was worried. So you see that a sin he said that maybe because of my sin, that's why I'm no longer deserving of the promise, even though Hashem told him, I'll protect you. But maybe he said the sin caused otherwise. So why does Rashi, the Pasuk, have to bring it down at the end of Techacha? What could be caused by a sin? And furthermore, why is that specifically connect when their fathers as Davke? The Dav specifically brought down in the Minyan of Hashavel and Mitzrayim that bring back Mitzrayim. Over here, we're bringing you out. When we go back to Mitzrayim, that there's the sin can cause Hashem to go back on his promises. This is nothing specifically to do with Mitzrayim. So again, the Rebbe would say there is something about these verses, not like the Leketov, not like we learned the suggestion of before, that you can go back. These are all not acceptable. And then further, the Rebbe said, and there's another interpretation, Pshita is Hotnitkin Orta, Mikro. It's obvious that the way we learn the style of Mikro, learning, can't learn as Chod, she's given at Tzivu Hashem. Need zurück zu gehen b'derech hazel Mitzrayim, although the Hashem command not to go back on this route of Mitzrayim, is the Chet Geirem. The Chet grows as the Eibishter rechemt sich nicht mit them. That Hashem does not even take into consideration the fact that He promised you're not going to go to Mitzrayim, bringt sie euch zu Eibishter rechemt Zivui. And He brings them back and He causes the Yidden to violate the command. So, to show you how far, so Rebbe says, maybe want to show you how far the grave of a sin is, that it causes you to violate a sin which Hashem told you not to do. But we can't say that. To the hodos, what is connected to the rebuke that these sins will cause to violate on another command against their will? Doesn't seem well. Again, the Rebbe is trying to prove that there's something about not going back to Mitzrayim, going on boats. These are all part of the Techacha. But the Zayin, Verstandig, Behegdim, we will understand this. The Rebbe says in his Hey, Atoisus being in Pirush Rashi of Ba'aniyas, a additional explanation in Rashi in Ba'aniyas on boats. Rashi says, what does it mean Ba'aniyas? Rashi says Bisfinis, that is boats. But then Rashi says, what are you doing on the boats? Bishivya, that the boats will be in captivity. So the captivity is not, that's the way they're bringing you. So why does Rashi say Bishivyu on the word Ba'aniyas? Ve'eshivcha, Rashi said on the word Ve'eshivcha, He will bring you back as in captivity. The Rob Taicha Zidin will gain in Mitzrayim Bishivya, to the meaning, the translation that the Yidden will go in Egypt in captivity is Shaykh, that belongs not zum Wort Ba'aniyas, not to the word on boats, nor zum Wort Ve'eshivcha, that belongs. Hashem will bring you back in captivity. As the Eberster, let's say, dort umkehren als Shvuim, that Hashem will bring them back there as captives. But the Rashi gedacht es mefarish sein, so Rashi should have explained it by veheshivcha. He will return in captivity, unit in them dibur, and not in that same explanation where touched up the word Ba'aniyas, where he translated the word Ba'aniyas. So, and the Rebbe is heading to an explanation on this, that this is actually the details of Aniyas that represents a more graver kind of Shivya going by boat. But first the Rebbe says, brings down an interpretation of the Balei HaTosus, what they say, the Balei HaTosus Len and Ein, they interpret as Ba'aniyas is Moisif in their Shivya, that the Aniyas, Rashi says, Aniyas b'shivya, meaning it adds to the idea of captivity. If they would go by foot, then the only ones that would be going back into Egypt, back into exile, would be the adults. They have the ability to go back by foot. Oh, but since it's bringing them through the boats, Yiyu Shovim Tavenoshim. Now it'll go back, the little children and the women, meaning it adds to the Shivyo that it's fact it's on a boat. So that's the interpretation of Balatosus. For them, Rashi Zok B'Shivya Stam. Rashi says, but he's B'Shivya in captivity. And he doesn't add Nitzugi the Kebir without adding explanation. It's verstandig as like Rashi. It's understood. Rashi doesn't add that it's talking about also women and children. So verstandig as like Rashi is the Reif to nit in them was the Shivya vetarum neman element. It's not what we're trying to point out over here, that this is going to encompass everyone, that also the children and the women, also women and children. But in the etzem inyan was a kumandor b'neiz v'zayin b'shivya. But this is something that coming in the boats will be by the shivya. So now the Rebbe will explain that this is actually, Rashi is trying to hint and explaining that all the details of the pasuk are part of the teichach of the review. Well, the biur b'zeh. Explanation is, Rashi is mefarish. Rashi explained that the alle pratim b'shtein in pasuk, that all the details that are stated in the verse, seine nit stam pratim von ein klolos dik teichach. They are not just details from one general rebuke. The rebuke is we're going to turn back to Egypt. The pasuk is telling you details, how and what. No, nor yeder fuzei, but each one of them is moisif. Adds additional rebuke. On the Rebbe learned Rashi, and this is what Rashi learns. Those was the pasuk is ma'irich. Why does the pasuk this that the pasuk stretches out and says it in a long way? In boats, in the way I said, is a an inyan noisov. That's an additional aspect. In zug of to the teichache, in addition to the rebuke. The rebuke of the fact itself that we're going back to Egypt. Also, that way over there, not only are you going back to Egypt, but also on the way over there in a very bad way on Itzai Pratim. The two Pratim. First of all, Aleph Ba'aniyos, that you're going back with boats. That's number one. And the second thing will be Baderech Asher Amarti, that in the way that I said that Lisif. What is the bad? What is it by boat? So Rashi b'shivya, that this means not just a form of transportation, and not just that they're going to go to Egypt and they'll be captives, but the shivya starts on the boat. But is b'shivya, this haste. Levad zois was in Mitzrayim vel zizayin b'shivya. Besides the fact that in Egypt they'll be in captivity, vel zoich them veke Mitzrayim, also the road towards Egypt, they're going to go through it as captives in oniyas in boats. But this is verbunden mit asach tzarvi yisurim. This is connected with a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, and a lot of pain, being captive not just in the land but also on the boat itself. Feel matter. This is way more painful than going in captivity over the dry land. You're confined over there. You're much more under the control of your captives because it's a confined area more than when you're walking. In boats, you are more and stronger. Unter der Morris von this, you're under the dominance, you're under the control of those who captured you. As you see it, very simple. And the Rebbe says that this is also the reason. Rashi wants to learn that the Aniyas itself is part of the captivities and doesn't want to learn like the Balei HaTosfos, because that it includes everybody. First of all, the Rebbe says they could walk, even though the Baltaisa said this way means everybody, because walking they couldn't take the children. But you saw in the desert, everybody's children walked. But the Rebbe says it wants to be an emphasis not only in the quantity, but the actual pain. The teichacha is not just who is going to be included, but it seems that it makes it difficult. That's what Rashi says about niyos b'shivya, that we're adding the shivya to the niyos. The Rebbe adds this in the bracket. Der mit is move on. And with this, we also understand from us Rashi will need learning why Rashi refuses to interpret the Balei HaTosos as the Balei HaTosos. But generally, the Balei HaTosos for that they can't take children on the road. That's not really, according to Rashi, not necessarily. Noisim, then was in Pashtus, that simply, in addition to this problem, can also small children and women can go by foot. They can go a little small, like he said, and that was by Yitzias Mitzrayim.